major investments in our military's greatest weapon of all, its warriors. The NDAA increases the size of the American Armed Forces for the first time in 7 years, and it provides our military service members with their largest pay increase in 8 years. Now Congress must finish the job by eliminating the defense sequester and passing a clean appropriations bill. I think it's going to happen. We need our military. It's got to be perfecto. At this time of grave global threats, I urge Democrats in Congress to drop their shutdown threats and to send clean funding and a clean funding bill to my desk that fully funds our great military. Protecting our country should always be a bipartisan issue, just like today's legislation. We must work across party lines to give our heroic troops the equipment, resources, and support that they have earned 1,000 times over. Together, we will send a clear message to our allies and a firm warning to our enemies and adversaries. America is strong, proud, determined, and ready. And I might add, when we're completed, and it won't be that long, we will be stronger than ever before, by a lot. So thank you to all of our friends in Congress, and we do appreciate the bipartisan support, and we appreciate your hard work on this historic defense authorization. And thank you, most of all, to our brave warriors for standing watch over our country, our families, and our freedom. Brand new, beautiful equipment is on its way, the best you've ever had by far. We make the best in the world, and you're going to have it. God bless you, God bless our military, and God bless America. Thank you very much. Thank you. I won't be showing all of this to everybody, believe it or not. That's a lot of pages. That is a lot of pages.
President, what did you mean when you said that Kirsten Gillibrand would do anything for a campaign contribution?
Well, thank you, Dave. You get to see everybody, democracy and civil Conrad, I'd love to bring this crowd in. Sound good?
Only the Oval Office. Only the important people go. I don't go. You told us to bring up the rear, don't let any fragments. I got absolute faith in you guys. Okay, guns. Yeah, good to see you again.
Hi guys who are on the stream. Welcome to Fox 5 Live here today on this Tuesday, December 12th, 12/12. I'm Molly inside the newsroom here today. That was just some live footage inside the White House in the Roosevelt Room. President Trump signing the National Defense Authorization Act for the fiscal year of this year in the White House. So we're going to re-rack that and play it because we missed sort of the beginning of that. But also in today's news, guys, today is Tuesday, Election Day in Alabama. We've been talking about this 4 weeks. It is the special election to fill that Senate seat. Roy Moore and Doug Jones, we brought you a lot of their sort of video behind the scenes, also speeches to the press and to their communities. We had some video earlier of both of them going into the polls and casting their votes for this. Now, of course, the results aren't going to come until later tonight, so more of our night side shows and reporters will be on this story. But if we get anything coming out of it, video or anything live streamable video, we'll bring it to you here on this live stream show. So thanks again for coming on, and hey Kellex, good to see you. Thanks for joining in on the chat. Good morning, wherever you're watching from. We're here in DC on this lovely, looking like snow type of day. There's the White House all decorated for Christmas and for the holiday, and we're getting ready for it too. So we're gonna have a bunch of different things as they come in today, just kind of setting up some shots here. Bear with us for a little bit. We're gonna play back that video so you can see the entirety of President Trump's speech there, and then we'll go into the afternoon and see what we have to bring you. So thanks for hanging out with us, guys.
Die in your rage, close quote. Although in plotting his attack, Ullah had apparently hoped to die in his own misguided rage, taking as many innocent people as he could with him. But through incredibly good fortune, his bomb did not seriously injure anyone other than himself. and New York's brave first responders with the Port Authority Police Department, men who ran into the smoke-filled corridor as panicked commuters ran out. They quickly found and neutralized Ula, who was laying on the ground, injured but not killed by his bomb. I want to thank and commend those brave officers who responded to the scene. I also want to thank the FBI, represented here today by Assistant Director in Charge Bill Sweeney. It is unfortunately too common that we find ourselves standing up here together to announce federal charges against an alleged terrorist. But the FBI's work and the work of all the other agencies and agents that form New York's Joint Terrorism Task Force is nothing short of amazing. The city and the country is lucky to have them protecting us, disrupting plots, and when attacks like this happen, investigating the suspects and bringing them to justice. Of course, I also want to thank the New York City Police Department, represented here today by First Deputy Commissioner Benjamin Tucker and Deputy Commissioner for Intelligence and Counterterrorism, John Miller. Every time we have an incident like this, or any other public safety issue, big or small, the NYPD is there, keeping us safe and letting us go about our business and our lives and keeping our citizens reassured. I've said this many times before, and no one has ever been able to contradict me when I've said that the NYPD is the greatest police force in the world. And we are truly lucky to have them watching over our city, and that was never more true than it was yesterday. I want to thank the Port Authority Police Department, represented here today by Chief Michael Brown and Commanding Officer Roy Schindel. As I mentioned, it was brave Port Authority police officers who ran into the smoke-filled danger without regard for their safety and first confronted the defendant. We all owe them a debt of gratitude. Finally, I want to thank the terrorism prosecutors and investigators in our office who jumped on this right away, worked hand in hand with the agents and officers at the JTTF, and put together federal charges on Ula within a day after his attack. They are Assistant U.S. Attorneys Sean Crowley, Rebecca Donaleski, George Turner, as well as Special Agents Kevin Song and George Corey. And I also want to thank the supervisors of that unit, Sean Buckley and Elon Graff. Because of who we are, how we live our lives, and what we stand for, New York City consistently remains a prime target for terrorists. Those who target us feel threatened by the strength of our spirit, the height of our ambition, and the breadth of our freedom. We are targeted by those whose poisoned minds think that killing innocent Americans here in this city will somehow advance their twisted ideology. But of course they are wrong, and they will inevitably fail. In New York City, alleged terrorists like Ula, who come seeking to sow hate, fear, and terror, will instead find strength, resilience, and hope. And like the many other alleged terrorists who have come before him, Ula will find here in a Manhattan courtroom just down the street another great American virtue, and that is justice. And that justice will be tough, it will be fair, and it will be swift. Now let me bring to the podium Assistant Director in Charge, Bill Sweeney.
Thanks, June, and thanks to your team. Your work yesterday was exceptional. 3 years ago, Mr. Ula headed down a path of radicalization, viewing pro-ISIS materials online, including videos inspiring followers to carry out attacks in their own homelands if traveling abroad proved too hard of a task. 1 year ago, he began researching how to build improvised explosive devices online, pipe bombs constructed of basic components found in your average hardware store. And yesterday, as New York City commuters resigned themselves to their Monday morning commute, they became the unwitting victims of one of the final chapters of his story. At approximately 7:20 a.m., he let loose his plan to conduct a mass casualty attack, setting off a pipe bomb strapped to his body inside a New York City subway terminal, as we allege today. Like many others before him, we allege he was inspired by a group that exploits technology in an effort to spread a violent ideology, effectively convincing sympathizers to work with them to commit terrorist acts around the globe, and there are others absorbing similar propaganda. Throughout the day yesterday, we conducted evidence recovery, exploited intelligence, executed search warrants, and conducted other investigative operations. Our investigation is ongoing. We do not stop because we have an individual who is charged. Our initial and ongoing priority is to always identify other potential operatives and address other potential threats. There are instances following these types of attacks where the intelligence we develop at the time may dictate that we locate, detain, and interview individuals in order to ensure the safety of the public and the safety of the law enforcement personnel conducting those operations. Our teams use appropriate, reasonable, and lawful methods to accomplish these goals, but to be clear, our teams will move with speed and move with purpose. I've said this before, and it's important, so I will say it again. I cannot stress enough the importance of an engaged public, especially as we head into the holiday season. This does not mean just being engaged on your daily commute. The nature of this particular strain of the terrorism threat can often mean evaluating behavior that doesn't mean anything until you combine it with other intelligence. We rely heavily upon the community's assistance to accomplish this task. We often equate it to trying to differentiate a needle between a stack of needles. I expect people to go about their business, but I'm asking that you do so while maintaining awareness of your surroundings. We understand it's easy to become complacent, especially when living, working, and commuting in this city is part of your everyday life. I'm simply asking those of you who do not already do so to look up from your phone, maybe take one of your earbuds out, and pay attention to what's happening around you. Perhaps even engage with your fellow citizen. If you see something or hear something that concerns you, tell us and let the JTTF and all of our partners do their work. The tip line for that type of reporting is 1-800-577-TIPS if you reside in this city. We have dedicated operational squads to monitor any incoming threat that could affect the city and the surrounding area. We have a threat response squad that operates 24/7 to respond to incoming tips and leads. And the JTTF is comprised of more than 50 agencies working side by side in order to keep the city safe. We will continue to address and assess each threat fully. I'd like to thank the many dozens of agencies that worked yesterday and in all days leading up to these types of events, in particular the NYPD, the New York State Police, the Port Authority PD, the Fire Department, all of our partners, but most especially yesterday, Chief Brown, to your 4 officers, and I know there were others, but we highlight the 4 exceptional public servants. If you get to see the full video, these men put themselves in grave danger and are heroes every day. So if you live and work in the city and you happen to go through that terminal and you see an officer, regardless of the agency, please give them a shout out. What your men did yesterday was exceptional. Thank you.
Thank you, Bill. Next, I'll bring up to the podium First Deputy Commissioner Benjamin Tucker.
Thank you, Jim. Let me also just add my congratulations to Chief Brown and his officers for their amazing work yesterday. We spend a lot of time in NYPD following up with our officers after they take extraordinary action and put themselves in harm's way on a regular basis. And so to observe the Port Authority officers do exactly the same thing, it just reinforces the notion of the partnerships that are so critically important to the work that we all do in law enforcement here in this city to keep it safe. So again, Chief Brown, please tell your officers how much we appreciate them stepping up to the plate to take the action that they did to keep New Yorkers safe. Today's announcement of the federal criminal charges against Mr. Ullah is only the beginning of the process of bringing him to justice for his acts yesterday. Fortunately, no innocent victim suffered any serious physical injuries when he detonated his homemade bomb in the crowded subway corridor during rush hour here in New York City yesterday. But let me be clear. His intention was to cause mass destruction and to do so in a vicious manner, as we have seen in other attacks too often throughout the nation, here in this city, and around the world. Our law enforcement partners, as was noted by Director Sweeney, our law enforcement partners, local, federal, international, are dedicated to hunting down those who commit these acts of terror, along with anyone who assists them, enables them in their criminal acts of vicious conduct against citizens of the city and the country.
Thank you, First Deputy Commissioner. We'll take a few questions. Yes.
Was the suspect on anyone's radar? Have you been on his watch list? Has his internet activity ever drawn attention from various agencies, or was this kind of completely keeping everybody by surprise?
There's no allegations one way or the other in the complaint, so I'm not going to comment on that. I don't know if Assistant Director Sweeney wants to say anything on that.
No, I don't really have too much to add. We constantly look at all the information we have, and we'll continue to dig, but so far, no, we don't see an indication that he would have drawn our attention before yesterday.
Yes.
The complaint alleges that Mr. Ula wrote on Facebook shortly before the attack, Trump who failed to protect your nation. Was there something specific that the suspect perceived that the president had done that aggrieved him? I know the complaint talked a little bit about he was upset in general with American actions and was sympathetic to ISIS. Was there something specific that precipitated the attack?
Unfortunately, as many of you know, at this stage in this case where we have a complaint, that's the only thing that's public. I'm not going to go beyond what's in the complaint. The complaint does allege that he admitted, following his arrest in a Mirandized statement, that he had posted that comment on Facebook. He also admitted, as alleged in the complaint, that he did this in support of ISIS. So beyond the admissions, alleged admissions in the complaint, I'm not going to go into any further detail.
I'm just wondering, because you have it in the complaint, if you're able to perhaps characterize what it was about the Middle East or what the U.S. was doing in the Middle East based on his statements that caused him to maybe think this.
Again, beyond what's in the complaint, and you're correct in noting that his admissions included both a statement that he did this in support of ISIS, that he had been radicalized through review of internet propaganda from ISIS, and a clear statement that it was in support of ISIS. He also made statements about, I don't know the exact words, you should look at the complaint, but issues he had with American Mideast policy. But beyond that, I'm not going to go, I can't go any further than that. Ben?
In addition to the Mirandized statements, were there questions under the public safety exception before he was registered? Did he make any statements?
All we've alleged in the complaint and all we're prepared to disclose at this time are the Mirandized statements that are set forth in the complaint. Yes.
There are reports that he traveled from Brooklyn to Fort Story, several subways to get there. Is there a particular reason why he detonated at that location specifically, rather than the subway train?
There is a allegation in the complaint, again, relating to his admission that he was he carried out the attack on a work day because he believed that there would be more people there. So it does, the allegations do include a statement that he was looking to maximize the damage for humans, to the extent that answers your question. Yes. Yep.
There were apparently, according to the complaint, handwritten notations in the passport, one of which was "Oh, America, Diana Reed." Are you able to elaborate on what some of the other notations were that were in the passport?
No, I'm not. Yes.
Could you tell us a bit about the timing that he's been planning for more than 3 years? And some reporting out there was from Christmas time, and that is why he chose this time of year to carry out this kind of attack. There's lawsuits because of his travel in the past year back to his home country as well as the Middle East.
So in terms of the timing, what's in the complaint is that he had been planning this particular attack for 2 to 3 weeks, and that he built the bomb a week ago it does allege that going as far back as 2014, he began getting radicalized through online ISIS-related propaganda. Beyond that, and I'm not going to be able to get into any other timing or his travel. Thank you. Oh yeah, there's a question about when he'll be in court. He remains in the hospital, and so his presentment we expect will be what we call a bedside presentment. It will happen either later today or tomorrow, and that's something we would have to coordinate with the court. But I expect it will be a bedside presentment, which can happen in a number of different ways. It can be with the judge sitting here through video conference. I believe that's the more common way, but that I think is something that we can provide you more information when we know more. Thank you.
Right. All right, guys, so that was the prosecution, the charges brought against, we just lost the feed, brought against the suspect from the bombing at Port Authority the other day, and that was live in New York. And actually, T, who's joining me, was away in New York for the weekend.
Yes,
and you were you close enough
I was,
to this?
I was at Port Authority the night before.
Okay.
And
then before it happened, which
that's the night
was
before it
Sunday
happened.
night.
Sunday night, and also Saturday night I went because I went to the Giants game.
Oh, great.
At MetLife, so I was nearby. But yeah, I went over there. It seemed calm for a Sunday. It was nice, you know. I even went to Times Square. I saw the Christmas tree in
Beautiful.
Yeah, Rockefeller Plaza.
Always fun to go to New York, but like we've been talking with what is happening and what has been happening, it's scary.
It's very scary and unfortunate.
And the governor says, we're not going to stop being New Yorkers. Of course not. Don't let this thwart your everyday situation. But you can't help but wonder or think, hey, I've used that Port Authority terminal a lot.
Yes,
I go in and out of there.
It's a major hub, like there are thousands of people that use it daily. Like it's crazy. And it very fortunate that the guy failed on his attempt. So
It is. I don't know how many out there you guys are jumping on our stream and watching, but we're talking, of course, the suspect from yesterday, the bombing that didn't go off as planned, thank goodness, in between two subway stations near Times Square, shut down lines for many hours. There were multiple news conferences on that. We brought one of those to our stream yesterday, but it is we're finding out more about the suspect. We're finding out more about the charges brought against him, and those were the live charges. So I wanted to jump over there before we went over to some of the other stuff we were going to play out today. But pretty interesting account from you that you had seen.
So when I woke up Monday morning, yesterday,
you were still in New York, Jersey?
I was still in Jersey. So I woke up and then I see that in the news, and then they had they had said that all buses were stopped, all routes that are going to Port Authority, there and back, have all been canceled.
Yeah.
So they shut it down for several hours.
Yeah.
Several hours. Nothing was going to Port Authority, but I think it's opened up.
Yeah.
Back up now.
Illinois guy, I see you on the stream. Thanks for coming on. You're asking about the district. It's interesting. Yeah, we're in DC here, local Channel 5, in our newsroom, and we've been following the story, of course. But it's interesting to think how this could affect this type of attack or attempted attack could affect major metropolitan cities like ours,
especially around the holidays. Times.
And how we react to that. And actually, we've been booking, I believe, guests and officials and people of authority who know this topic, maybe in transportation and otherwise, to kind of compare. Hey, is DC ready for this type of thing to happen? I don't think you kind of ever are, but you prepare the most that you can. And our transportation system is well equipped, and they work on stuff to deal with this stuff.
I think Metro does an okay job with their security. They have undercovers, that are just in the train every once in a while. I think their security measures are okay. I think even one time I saw police with dogs, canine units.
Oh yeah.
They're sniffing for whatever.
In general, they were just there on a regular day.
Just checking. Yep. Kind of like how I also seen that in New York City too, but that's more common in New York, I think.
Yeah.
Because their trains are 24 hours.
Sure. Right.
And here we have limited hours, so it's like.
So you ended up not taking a bus. You weren't taking the bus back anyway. You got back another way.
Yeah. So the first time I went on Friday night, I took the bus straight to Port Authority. So I actually got lost. Almost missed my bus on the way
back. It's kind of hard. You navigate it. It's definitely it's a thing.
But Sunday night, I drove over there. I paid the toll, drove into the city, and it was free parking on Sunday too, which is kind of nice. But it seemed, all right, like your usual packed crowd in New York City on a Sunday night. It was relatively packed.
Right. It is. It really is.
So it's kind of scary, like.
Right, and what we know and what we've been seeing is if this attack went off as planned, it could have been really, really horrible, a whole lot worse. And so many thanks and props are going out to the police and officials who detained this guy. But
I hope this doesn't happen at home here, but I'm pretty sure, with everything that's happening, like you got the president right down the street almost. Yeah. So like I'm sure security is top notch. I think, especially with our limited hours, I think our metro line should be fairly safe.
Yeah. It's interesting. We are much more limited. We're not 24 hours, but it does make you think, and it makes us compare. And I think that's a hot topic now for tonight, maybe for this morning's show. Yeah. Bring in an official and say, hey, in light of these, how can we compare that to here? If that happened here, who would do what and who would be ready? And it's I don't know, it's a little bit much for us to think about just as normal civilians that are commuters that are taking transportation. But isn't it amazing that you had seen it firsthand? You saw where everything could have happened, and then you saw the news.
And I woke up to text the news, and it was crazy. I couldn't believe it.
Right.
It's ironic.
It gets you. Yeah. Well, you had a good trip at least. Saw the Giants.
I did. Yeah. It was safe. Safe
good.
Trip.
Yeah,
overall.
The stadium was cool.
So no one got hurt though, right? After the
Ultimately, 2 were injured. One of those people included was the suspect who now has these charges brought against him. And we found out he was a Bangladesh
native for 7 years, living in Brooklyn.
Yesterday in the White House press briefing, which we also brought to the stream, I know Sarah Sanders was talking about how he came in through chain immigration, which is something that President Trump has spoken against, and in his new policies, what he wants to roll out is ending that. And so there's a lot to be talked about with immigration in light of the events. But yes, what we know, I believe, is just the 2 were injured. I thank goodness it wasn't more, but still not so good.
Yeah.
And definitely not
a scary situation,
event. Yeah. So hopefully you guys have sort of been following that, and hope that some of our stream has helped you kind of stay in the loop with what's live and who's happening where and what's happening. But we're also following what else is going on today, guys. The special election in Alabama. We've been following it for a bit. This is a big one. The polls, we don't really know. I was doing some reading on this morning. Basically, the news, President Trump actually tweeted about it this morning. I'm going to see if I can find that for you. He is in full support of Roy Moore after things have come out against him for sexual contact with and assault of multiple younger women in his past. And he did tweet about it today, and he tweeted in, like I said, in support of him. So you can find it because there were multiple, but essentially we don't really know. The polls have been sort of changing up and down. The numbers are a little tricky to read, and what we know is that the election, is today and tonight. So we won't know more until that all closes tonight. But 9 women in total have come forward about the sexual misconduct. Wow. Several of them were teens at the time. So in the past, just to reiterate. Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell has said that he needs to leave the race, and he said Alabama voters, though, need to make the call. Alabama Senator Richard Shelby, Republican, says that the state deserves better, and there have been multiple other comments from politicians. Even Obama, former President Obama, campaigning for Doug Jones, the Democratic candidate in Alabama. So that's what's happening. It's unclear what's going to happen. We don't know because the polls have not been.
The people of Alabama will speak.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Really interesting. Like I said, we've been talking about this for weeks. We've been making stories with it and kind of comparing it on a local angle. And tonight is the big night. So we'll be bringing you whatever live feeds we have of that coming in. At the top of the show, we had President Trump talking about a new Defense Authorization Act from the White House, and we kind of jumped in halfway, so I want to make sure we take that in its entirety. But first, because we're talking about Roy Moore, I have a little footage of him casting his ballot today. And get this, guys, this is actually something I've never seen. It's a first. He rode in on horseback to do so. So we're going to show you that video to give you a little taste of what it looked like this morning. Roy Moore casting his vote. Here it is.
You really have. How important do you think it is that you win? That you win this race. And what would you say today to your accusers? Excuse me. You really have. How important do you think it is that you win? Why do you think it's important?
How confident are you feeling, sir? How confident are you feeling about today?
And what would you say today to your accusers? Excuse me.
All right, guys, obviously having some issues with this stream, but I really wanted to take this so you guys could see him cast his vote. And there it is in true Alabama fashion. We get the sound, but not the video. Casting his vote on horseback, trying to work this out. Oh, I really wanted to take this video. He had some words to say as well, because I want to see both candidates and what they're doing. We're going to try to work on this video for you and hope that you are still hanging on. Yeah, major tech support, guys. Sorry.
Yeah.
Rolling your eyes, I see. Iran saying that he always rides on horseback to cast his vote. Interesting, something I wasn't aware of, but makes sense, I think.
Excellent. That's as southern as you can get. You know, that's
Yeah.
I think
there it is. I do want to see he had a few words to say to the press. I know it's a little bit choppy. This is a rough feed that we got in from a sister station, but let's see what he has to say. Do we have any sound on this? Hi. Yep. Justin.
Mr. Moore, this is from Norwegian television. What do you say again, what you think about all these National? Well, it's very important. Race and
Just hold up a minute. You've got very controversial views about homosexuality in Islam.
No,
do you think that taking the orders that help you?
We're gonna have to move back, gentlemen. Let them through. Let them through. Let them through. Open it up. Let them through.
Judge Moore, if you win, what's your message? Judge Moore, if you win, what's your message to Mitch McConnell? 30 feet. What's your message to Mitch McConnell?
30 feet.
Line. 30 feet.
Back it up. Back up. Right now. Back it up. Let's see it like feet.
Going back, see that line.
Back it up.
Sure, got this. Back it up.
Hey guys, get behind the camera.
Right place, 30 feet. Alabama state law, 30 feet. Back
Behind the camera. Hey, boss.
Back it up behind the line.
Hey guys.
Behind the orange line.
Hey guys, y'all stand in front of tripods. Let's go. Here's one over here, maybe. Mark in front of the camera this way. Hold on.
You think he'll come to speak to me?
Yeah.
I don't know if he even said anything.
Yeah. It was insanity.
Where's Bryn? You okay? Sorry.
No, it's really an issue. As long as we start tripods up here.
Yeah.
Make it follow up.
Bryn.
Oh, it's a pretty good picture. Sorry. It is a good thing. Like enough to file it. Maybe we did this in well, the videos you got in the mud.
Yeah.
Testing 3, 2, 1.
I won't even try. I'm not following him again. I'm even walking out and that's it.
Yeah.
I ain't doing that shit again.
It's crazy.
I bet you barely got it.
It's different. Same. Yeah.
I got the whole time.
It was just cameras everywhere.
Yeah. Walking out, that's it.
So as you are watching this video that we finally got up and working of Roy Moore casting his vote, riding in on horseback, and I believe he does it, comes out and says a few words. So I did want to kind of stay here for a second just so you can kind of get the feel of what's going on down there. Now, Doug Jones, his opposing candidate, also cast his vote, and we had some video of that as well. If I find it or if it's interesting, we'll also pull some of that to show you kind of both sides of it. But that's what's happening today, filling that seat from Jeff Sessions. This morning, Sessions was detailing President Trump's plan to combat MS-13, the gang violence group that we've been seeing in the news, brutal street gang, and talking about law enforcement action and immigration action to take against that. So we'll kind of go over there and give you a taste of that as well. A lot of video from this morning, kind of coming in on our afternoon time. So not everything live right now, but really just a few moments ago. So trying to bring you what's happening around the nation on your digital stream. Let us know what's up and where you're watching from and what you're thinking about today so we can chat with you. We got T here to give a little analysis as well. We got some chatter we can chat about later.
Yeah. Endless things to talk about. Several topics. Have you ever been to Alabama?
I have not.
Okay.
Have you guys? Anybody been to Alabama?
I've never been to
Alabama. Or from there? Maybe you're watching from there now? I think he comes out in this, or soon, and we'll hear what he has to say to the press. Yeah, this will be interesting to see. A lot of people getting their social media accounts out there and talking about getting the vote out in Alabama tonight.
Spread the word. Get on your horse and start spreading the word.
It's the way to do it, right?
For your candidate.
I hadn't seen that before. I thought that was an interesting video. The horseback.
Yeah, I mean that's pretty classy if you ask me.
But
zero emissions.
We will see what does happen, right?
Yeah, it's good for the ozone layer.
It is very green way to do it.
Unlimited miles per gallon, you know. It's
maybe.
Maybe
well,
you just gotta give the horse some water.
Give him a little
some hay.
Fuel. Yeah.
Organic fuel. Yep. And you can
Oh gosh. All right, let's bring this full screen and see what Roy had to say to his press.
All I heard was leave it up to the oldest laws out here.
I heard before you said Bryn, you asked if you do it one. You want to come out of this? Yeah, she said no, so we leave it alone. Yeah, seriously? Huddle.
You see kind of the beanie coming against the wall?
Yeah.
I can see that.
Sure. Christian, if you stop it,
Ladies and gentlemen, he says he's not going to make a statement. So when we come out, just give us room to walk him. You get all the pictures, we'll give you time. But, just please don't crowd him and let us get him back in the horse. Okay?
Thank you, sir.
We'll work with you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. That is better.
All right, so we're going to see if we can fast forward this to see his remarks. There he comes. I know this is a little rough, but I want you guys to see this. Where is he? Let's go all the way there. Forward.
It's gonna buffer. It's gonna take a second.
It's not gonna work, huh?
It's like catching up, yeah.
All right. Well, did you see Yeah, not quite sure we'll be able to get these remarks. So really quickly, because Kathy, you just alerted me back to this topic, totally switching gears. The social video that's been making the rounds of young Keaton Jones, I believe that was his last name, the boy who was bullied, who opened up to his mom. Did you see this in the car?
Yes.
It's been pervading social media. We talked about it yesterday. Today, and or last night, it came out that there are other moms and people out there scamming this story to make a profit, to make some money on it.
Wow.
And so, Kathy, I was alerted to that, and I saw some of that on social media, and essentially scamming it, saying that they are them, and getting these funds kind of set up to put money in, out of sympathy and empathy, and them not really being who they say they are. And so they're scamming people, it's taking a case that's meaningful, that is important, that is teachable and heartwarming, and taking it to make $1, and it's just horrible. Any type of scam like that, we've seen that happen before. I think in some of these viral videos, we've seen it in other ways, but especially with someone that's dealing with something that's so hurtful, and bullying being this pervasive thing in teenhood and childhood and schools. It's not good. So Kathy, I'm sure you agree with me too. I know you were talking about this topic yesterday, but anybody else too who had seen this, let us know what you think. I don't have any clips to actually show you, but it was,
it's pretty sad. I mean, like,
starting up these GoFundMe accounts and whatnot.
Somebody who's actually gone through this, they should use that to spread the word, but it's really sad when people try to capitalize on that, it's messed up.
They knew, people are obsessed with that money-making thing. They know when something goes viral. And we know in this digital era, people are making a ton of money on various YouTube trends,
Instagram,
people that
pranks,
came up, and
videos.
I love that, the makeup tutorials that became so amazing. They started from the bottom, and they were just kind of creating their own brand, and then they made a ton of profit on because they got so many subscribers and hits. This digital era is unlike anything we've seen, right? We're paving a new way every day, and so when people see something, they know it's a hit, and then they take it. When the subject matter is something that's so true and meaningful and important, it's even worse than scamming in another way. I mean, scamming, horrible, of course. So definitely that struck me. We talked about it a little bit in our sort of social media side editorial meeting this morning in the digital section when we were talking about what was trending in the web, and that was a big one. So unfortunate to see something that we took as a positive story, that everyone took, celebrities, people retweeting them, took as a positive story, now being twisted.
Were there a lot of I guess GoFundMe accounts that made money? Like, were there tons of people that made money?
I don't know the exact success, and Kathy, you might know more details than I. But I know that I think even BuzzFeed was reporting this, and other outlets were reporting that there was one specific one that was proven to be fake, and it wasn't really her, and people were putting money into this. So I believe, I think people were scammed out of some money. I don't know the exact numbers or the details surrounding it, but Oh, Illinois guy saying 60,000 plus money.
Ooh.
I hadn't seen the number, but if that is what it is,
Jesus, man, they need
crazy
to.
stuff. Because people, you know what it is? There is human kindness. People have a draw and an empathy and a sympathy for these stories, and so they want to help. And I think it does at least show you, the good, some of the positivity, the good in the world from it. But it also shows you there are scammers out there, and people are wanting to make a buck.
Lots of trickery,
Lots of trickery.
Make sure you check out the source before you throw your money in any.
Absolutely.
Before you donate your money, your hard-earned dollars anywhere. Just make sure.
Absolutely, guys. Sorry that we couldn't bring that very more video to you. Unfortunately, gosh, it buffered right when I wanted it. I don't think I was able to get it. Fast forward it to the video that I wanted, but.
Try and play.
I know. I don't know if it went through. It's almost there. I just want to bring it over. So he spoke to a crowd, and if we can get it up to, I guess we could have just kept it playing. If we can get up to that point, we'll bring that back on the screen. But that's one of the bigger stories today, as embattled Republican candidate for Senate Roy Moore casts his ballot in the race for today.
Yeah.
What else are you working on today, T? Anything big in the IT world?
Well, just got several computers that I need to deploy. Litecoin is booming.
We were talking about Bitcoin and whatnot.
Cryptos are going crazy.
We were talking about this.
If you have not invested, buy some now. The top, you go to Coinbase.
Because telling people, if you are an investor, telling people helps you also, right? Right?
It helps the masses, It helps people who aren't bank owners.
I think we just put this video, it just came to where I want it, so let's check it out.
There we go.
He wins. It's a major headache for a Republican Party already trying to come to terms with Donald Trump.
Whoever wins here tonight.
Hey, Judge. Judge, local media here.
Distrust in the media, fueled by the president himself, is now a significant factor here.
Hey, Judge, for the local media here watching this, what do you want to say to the people of Alabama right now?
Well, I think they ought to go out and vote their conscience, and we have a tremendous turnout. The nation is watching this. In fact, we have how many international people from overseas, different nations here today. This is a very important race for our country, for our state, and for the future.
Judge Moore, if you win, are you prepared to face an ethics committee investigation?
We take those problems up when we get to the Senate, when we win.
Judge, what do you say to those who accuse you essentially of bigotry?
What's the last question like?
What do you say to those who accuse you of bigotry?
To those who say you are a bigot, what do you say? Come on.
Keep it moving. Mrs. Moore, are you confident? Mrs. Moore, are you confident your husband is innocent?
We've made statements.
Judge Moore, are you ready for the fight on Capitol Hill with your own party?
Thank you very much for coming today. Appreciate it.
Judge Moore, what's your response to Senator Shelby?
We're dealing with horses here, and these
Y'all make them very nervous, so if you would stay back.
I don't think they're going to get on them. They're going to walk them out.
Cameras, everybody, you're gonna ride your horses. Ride your horses.
Just step in a bit.
Dude, you really gotta stand straight in the middle of it.
Sorry.
Hey guys, you're gonna get stampeded, like, move back, okay? The horses don't like cameras. This is like real horses in Alabama.
Go on.
All right, guys, we're going to switch out of that. And speaking of sexual harassment allegations, we just got alert on the feed that we're going to go over to right here in Washington, D.C. Actually, the Democratic Women's Association group is talking about bringing new laws against sexual harassment on the Hill. And this is live from Washington. So kind of segueing from one thing to the next, somewhat related, of course. We're going to go over there now. Check it out.
I yield to Representative Brenda Lawrence of Michigan.
Good afternoon. We in Congress are facing a critical point in history. Many are calling it a watershed moment. For too long, accountability has not been the priority and bad behavior has gone unchecked. For too long, we have accepted cop-outs like locker room talk. For too long, courageous voices has fallen upon deaf ears. And now that time is over. And I'm sorry, Mr. President, you do not live under a different set of rules. So, as the vice chair of the Democratic Women's Working Group and a member of the Oversight Committee, I stand here to support their right to a voice and to seek justice. I stand here demanding accountability, a full investigation from Congress when the White House will not provide its own. I stand here in support of over 100 of my colleagues, and I'm sure millions across America, asking for this fair and transparent investigation. Elijah Cummings, ranking member of our Oversight Committee, has already gone out in a strong support of moving forward with this investigation. We hope that Chairman Gowdy will recognize the need and urgency of this matter. As a member of the Oversight Committee, I call on all of my colleagues who sit on this committee to support and immediately launch this investigation. Regardless of the victim or alleged predator, every voice deserves to be heard, and justice demands transparency, accountability, and due process. Thank you.
Thank you. Any questions?
My first question is, have you gotten any response from the Republican chairman about whether he's willing?
Not yet.
And then my second question is, what do you say to Republicans who argue this isn't something that Congress should be investigating because it happened allegedly before Trump took office?
The question is, I'm sorry, just so everyone hears the question. The question is, what do we say to Republicans who say this already been litigated and this is something that happened before Congress? Well, before the president was elected. The Oversight Committee has very broad jurisdiction. I'll remind everybody of the Whitewater investigation many years ago when President Clinton was investigated for matters that were outside his presidency. Yeah.
Maybe self-evident, but nobody said it. What is the end goal of this investigation? Donald Trump's not a member of Congress. These allegations took place before he was president. Censure, impeachment. What would you like to see the goal?
Well, I think I ended my remarks by saying right now it's to get to the truth. And I think if we can get to the truth, I think that will lead to the next step.
And I'm a firm advocate of accountability. And that is what we're struggling with now in Congress. But you can't get there until you get to the truth. And the American people, with denials and accusations, they deserve to have a thorough investigation that will reveal the facts.
Sure. I think we have to see what we learn. I think certainly crimes, violations of the law can lead to that.
And history has shown us that we impeached a president for inappropriate sexual behavior in the past. So I would say history answers that question.
Yes. Well, I think when you go back to the presidency, there were so many issues being litigated that may have overshadowed the allegations of the many, many women who accused him of sexual abuse. I think today, if you look at the mood of the country and the Me Too movement, the time is right to really get to the truth of the matter. And what do I say about Roy Moore and him? I don't know, maybe I say it takes one to know one. I think it's disgraceful that he would back him. Yes. Yes. Did you all hear the question? Yeah, come on, come over. This is Jackie Spear, you know her. She's one of the mothers of the movement, also our policy communications chair. Go ahead.
Thank you. As you're all aware, House Rule 10 gives the Congress of the United States, and particularly the House of Representatives, the authority to investigate anything at any time. And it is under that House rule that we are calling on the Government Oversight Committee to do the investigation. But what took place this morning when the president tweeted about our colleague, Senator Kirsten Gillibrand, is grotesque. It took my breath away, and it represents the conduct of a person who is ill-equipped to be the President of the United States.
Okay. We'll all say amen to that. Yes. I think all of us I think we've all taken the position that we want a fair process here. Some of us have been working with the House Administration Committee to get a fair process. I think that's what we're all about.
I think the Democratic Party has been very strong in saying that there should be an ethics investigation, and that you have seen actions from the Democratic Party that we're not running away from this. We are standing together and saying accountability goes all the way to the White House.
I think we believe that sexual abuse, victims of sexual abuse, perpetrators, there's no specific race or religion or ethnicity or party. I think Republicans and Democrats, independents, are all equal opportunity offenders. Anybody else? If not, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you. We had a lot. Thank you, Dr. Everything. Thank you for being here. Thank you. You were great. I'm trying to be very.
All right, guys, so to reiterate what that was, 59 congresswomen, Democratic congresswomen, have gotten together to speak out for a probe into sexual misconduct allegations against President Trump. So that was their statement, and that is a little bit of breaking piece of news. Our Tom Fitzgerald is on that story today. So he was over there, and we were getting that feed in from Fox, but also we also had a personal camera there from 5. So calling on an investigation for multiple of the allegations that we heard yesterday. If you missed that stream yesterday, 3 of the 16 women that came forward for Brave New Films actually sat on a panel and talked about their experience and what they have to say about President Trump's past with them and sexual misconduct allegations. So if you missed it, check it out. It was yesterday's stream, dated, of course, yesterday, December 11th. Quickly, President Trump is in favor of Roy Moore. We saw this today. I wanted to bring this to you. So that election is tonight. There was his tweet that I was looking for before, saying people of Alabama will do the right thing. Doug Jones is pro-abortion, weak on crime, military, and illegal immigration, bad for gun owners and veterans, and against the wall. Jones is a Pelosi Schumer puppet. Roy Moore will always vote with us. Vote Roy Moore. So very obviously to the point and blunt about his support for that candidate. I'm going to bring you video from just moments ago, President Trump in the White House, in just a second. So hang on tight and we'll be right back with you.
Good afternoon. I'm Lois Frankel. I'm chair of the Democratic Working Women's Group.
Oh, you sure. Yeah. Oh, I mean, he resigned with the the guy that I wish he was very good and very user friendly. He went to you know, I mean, just incompetent. When I went to the 50th anniversary, I became part of it. Yeah.
Thank you very much, Mr. Vice President, Secretary Mattis, General Dunford, senior military leaders and distinguished guests. Thank you all for being here as we prepare to sign something that is extremely important, the National Defense Authorization Act. We're signing it into law. This historic legislation demonstrates our unwavering commitment to our men and women in uniform, the greatest fighting force in the history of the world, and we're making it a lot better than even that. Before we begin, I want to address the terrorist attack that took place yesterday in New York City and to praise the first responders, local police, and federal law enforcement for their quick action. They did an incredible job. There have now been 2 terrorist attacks in New York City in recent weeks carried out by foreign nationals here on green cards. The first attacker came through the visa lottery, and the second through chain migration. We're going to end both of them. The lottery system and chain migration. We're going to end them fast. Congress must get involved immediately, and they are involved immediately, and I can tell you we have tremendous support. They will be ended. These attacks underscore the dangers we face from around the globe. The National Defense Authorization Act could not come at a more opportune or important time. This legislation represents a momentous step toward rebuilding our military and securing the future for our children. I applaud the work of the members of both parties who came together to pass the National Defense Authorization Act, which passed with overwhelming bipartisan support, something that sounds very nice to my ears. I especially want to thank Chairman Thornberry, who is here with us today, for his tireless efforts. Thank you, man. Thank you. It was a great job. Fantastic job. In recent years, our military has undergone a series of deep budget cuts that have severely impacted our readiness, shrunk our capabilities, and placed substantial burdens on our warfighters. And great warfighters they are. History teaches us that when you weaken your defenses, you invite aggression. The best way to prevent conflict or of any kind is to be prepared and really be prepared. Only when the good are strong will peace prevail. Today, with the signing of this defense bill, we accelerate the process of fully restoring America's military might. I also want to thank Senator John McCain for the work he's done on this bill. He has fought very, very hard to make it just the way he wants it and that we all want it. This legislation will enhance our readiness, expand our modernize our forces, and help provide our service members with the tools that they need to fight and to win. We will fight and win, but hopefully with this we won't have to fight because people will not be wanting to fight with us. It authorizes funding for our continued campaign to obliterate ISIS. As you know, we've won in Syria, we've won in Iraq, but they spread to other areas, and we're getting them as fast as they spread. We've had more success with ISIS in the last 8 months than the entire previous administration has had during its entire term. It approves missile defense capabilities as we continue our campaign to create maximum pressure on the vile dictatorship in North Korea. We're working very diligently on that, building up forces. We'll see how it all turns out. It's a very bad situation, a situation that should have been handled long ago by other administrations. It upgrades our ground combat vehicles, allows for the purchase of new joint strike fighter aircraft, and paves the way for beautiful new Virginia-class submarines, the finest in the world. Finally, the defense bill authorizes major investments in our military's greatest weapon of all, its warriors. The NDAA increases the size of the American Armed Forces for the first time in 7 years, and it provides our military service members with their largest pay increase in 8 years. Now Congress must finish the job by eliminating the defense sequester and passing a clean appropriations bill. I think it's going to happen. We need our military. It's got to be perfecto. At this time of grave global threats, I urge Democrats in Congress to drop their shutdown threats and to send clean funding and a clean funding bill to my desk that fully funds our great military. Protecting our country should always be a bipartisan issue, just like today's legislation. We must work across party lines to give our heroic troops the equipment, resources, and support that they have earned 1,000 times over. Together, we will send a clear message to our allies and a firm warning to our enemies and adversaries. America is strong, proud, determined, and ready. And I might add, when we're completed, and it won't be that long, we will be stronger than ever before, by a lot. So thank you to all of our friends in Congress, and we do appreciate the bipartisan support, and we appreciate your hard work on this historic defense authorization. And thank you most of all to our brave warriors for standing watch over our country. our families, and our freedom. Brand new, beautiful equipment is on its way. The best you've ever had by far. We make the best in the world, and you're going to have it. God bless you, God bless our military, and God bless America. Thank you very much. Thank you. I won't be showing all of this to everybody, believe it or not. That's a lot of pages. That is a lot of pages.
Mr. President, what did you mean when you said that Kirsten Gillibrand would do anything for a campaign contribution?
Well, thank you, Dave, for being able to get to see it. Our democracy is going, so thank you very much. Conrad, I'd love to bring this down. Sound good? Yes, sir. Only the Oval Office. Only the important people go. I don't go. So you told us to bring up the rear till my flag is okay. I got absolute faith in you guys.
All right, guys, so that was video from earlier this morning in its entirety because we jumped into our stream in a little bit in the middle of his speech there, signing H.R. 2810, a new National Defense Authorization Act. So he did that from the Roosevelt Room in the White House. Also in other news, guys, did you hear about how Edwin Lee, the mayor of San Francisco, actually passed away yesterday at the age of 65? I don't believe it was... I believe it was possibly sudden or unexpected. So actually the acting mayor, London Breed, is going to be holding a news conference here in just a moment. We just found out it's added to our live events queue, so we're going to make sure we bring that to you live. It's probably in a few minutes or so, maybe about 5 minutes. So before we bring that to you from San Francisco, we're going to go over to Attorney General Jeff Sessions, who was detailing Trump's plan to combat MS-13 this morning. So a little sound from the Attorney General. We've seen MS-13 big in the news. This was actually in Baltimore. We've seen it really pervade our area, the DMV area. So it's kind of a local story, even though it is a huge national story as well. So talking about law enforcement and immigration actions that they want to take, here's the Attorney General from this morning. And then we're going to jump right in to that San Francisco news conference.
Agenda. Among other things, he sent us an order when I took office to reduce crime in America, not to preside over upward increases, but to actually reduce it. And so I want to recognize our FBI, DEA, ATF special agents here, the Department of Justice, and all our Homeland Security people that we work with too on a regular basis. You do terrific work. Protect the American people, and I'm proud to stand with you, behind you. But we know too well violent crime is up in many cases in our country. Last week, our department's annual National Crime Victimization Survey, which is different from the FBI numbers, but they come out similar, it shows that the rate of Americans victimized by violent crime is up by more than 13%. Some have suggested this is a blip. It's not a real increase in crime. I think that survey that just came out last week is further confirmation that we are indeed seeing a surge in violent crime. Murder is up, according to the FBI numbers, 20% in the last 2 years. This is the largest increases we've seen since the 60s. It's just not acceptable. Over the last 2 years in this city, this city has experienced violence like we haven't seen in a quarter of a century. The violent crime rate is up by 1/3. Rape is up by 22%. Murder is up by half, 50%. Baltimore has a higher murder rate and a higher violent crime rate than Chicago, with less than a quarter of the population of Chicago. Strong and motivated policing is a key to dealing with the crime rate in most cities, in every city really. 85% of our law enforcement officers in a jurisdiction are state and local officials, and maintaining their morale, maintaining support for them, and training and resources are critical to crime. And we've got to understand that this recent news article that Deputy Rosenstein was quoted in the last few days in the Baltimore Sun really touched on the challenges that we face. I think Rod was exactly right in his analysis, and we've got to revitalize and support our police, work together with our federal and officers, and move forward in a way that can actually reduce crime. That should be our goal. Not how many people go to jail, not how much money we spend, but are we reducing crime, making neighborhoods peaceful, safe, and prosperous? So we embrace that agenda, and we're working to carry it out aggressively. This year alone, the department has secured convictions against more than 1,000 gang members and targeted MS-13. With more than 10,000 members across 40 states, MS-13 is one of the most dangerous gangs in America. And make no mistake, it's a transnational criminal organization. It's based in El Salvador. I was there a few months ago, and it is the most violent gang in America today. The people of this community, you've seen it firsthand. In January, a 15-year-old girl, 15 years old, from near here in Gaithersburg, was stabbed 13 times with knives and a wooden stake by MS-13 members. Her killers filmed the murder so they could show their leaders back in El Salvador what they did. First, our goal with the Department of Homeland Security in partnership is to end the illegality rampant in the immigration system that nurtures much of this crime. As Attorney General, I've ordered our prosecutors to renew their focus on immigration offenses, specifically where those criminals have a gang nexus, a cartel nexus, a violent crime nexus. We've sent additional prosecutorial resources to the southwest border, created border security coordinators in each of our 94 U.S. attorneys' offices to enforce immigration laws, with a special emphasis on criminals like MS-13 that have a nexus to our southern border. I've designated MS-13 as a priority for our OCDF task forces. These task forces bring together a broad coalition of federal law enforcement, DEA, FBI, ATF, CSI, ICE, Border Patrol, Coast Guard, Secret Service, IRS. That's how we work together today. And I want to thank Secretary Nielsen and the Department of Homeland Security personnel for the contributions, the invaluable contributions they make. So these are important steps. We've already delivered results. Together with our partners in Central America, we filed criminal charges against more than 4,000 MS-13 members and seized many firearms, vehicles, and assets. But we must recognize that traditional gangs like MS-13 have taken advantage of our porous borders and previously lax immigration enforcement. That's just a fact. If we accept lawlessness, then we encourage lawlessness. When people break our laws without consequences, we shouldn't be surprised when they continue to break our laws. We can establish a new system where people respect our laws. In recent years, our immigration system has been overwhelmed. The caseload has tripled since fiscal year 2009 and doubled since 2012. As the backlog of cases grew out of control, the previous administration in the immigration area closed nearly 200,000 pending immigration court cases, just closed them without a final decision in just 5 years, more than were closed in the previous 22 years. By closing them, basically they have legalized the person who was coming to court because they were illegally in the country. But under President Trump, We've already taken steps to bring down that backlog. We're completing, not closing, immigration cases. Under the Trump administration, our immigration judges completed 20,000 more cases last fiscal year than the previous one. We've hired 50 immigration judges since January, and we plan to hire another 60 in the next 6 months. Last week, I issued a memo to our Executive Office for Immigration Review, which makes clear that cases are to be resolved, either with removal order or a grant of relief to the petitioner. Appeals that are frivolous ought to be resolved quickly, and fraud ought to be documented and prosecuted. And finally, we will implement objective performance measures to ensure our judges are working fairly and efficiently. The American people, as well as those who come here and disrespect our laws, can be certain about this. We are enforcing the laws again as they were written. Since President Trump took office, border crossings are now at their lowest level in 45 years. This is a big achievement. A lot of it just simply from the clarity of his leadership and expressions. But that number can be zero. We can bring it down further. We can end illegality in America. It is not impossible. It's also, we got to ask Congress for some help too. I know we have a few things we'd like Congress to consider, and we'll be asking them to do so. And we can't wait longer. As yesterday's New York events showed in the starkest terms, the failures of our immigration system are also a national security issue. Since 9/11, the Department of Justice has prosecuted more than 500 people for terrorism-related offenses. And preliminary figures suggest that nearly 75% of those defendants were foreign-born. The president is exactly right to call attention to these issues and to how they affect our security. In just the last 2 months, we've seen 2 terrorist attacks.
We got to run back in for Timmy. We got to run back in and gavel down Timmy. And then, I want to continue the appeals this afternoon. Yeah. This was the right spot. I guess you're right. I called from North Blankford last night. You were signed to sue. No, she was in LA. Oh, you were in LA? I'm going to LA after the board meeting.
Beautiful weather. Fires are still burning.
Yeah, I know.
Tragedy everywhere.
Good morning, Jane. Time to go to bed.
6:30.
You too. Time to wake up.
7:30.
Oh, that's
What time
until
did you go to bed? 6:30.
I went to the row house.
What time did you wake up?
9.
Oh,
Went to bed at 6:30 though. 6:15.
my phone just kept.
Oh,
Mine
me too.
too.
I
Oh my
just
God. Crazy.
slept all the way through.
How's Nancy? Mike is hot.
All I saw was the camera over the bed. All I saw was the camera over the bed.
No, I'm just saying, but it's good that he told you.
What's that?
Yeah. I didn't even realize that for AM news.
Unbelievable.
I watched TV.
I mean, after we got on TV,
Love it. Don't you love it when
Yeah. I kind of wonder who's looking at
not me.
East Coast is rising. I got texted from some people back east earlier.
yes.
Is that an industrial like flock?
I already took care of it.
You should. That's it.
Maybe really down
Guys, we're still getting more details on what exactly happened in this case, but he died, the mayor, Edwin Lee, at age 65. We're hearing heart attack, and we know this is a town that has a very beloved mayor, and it's a city that comes together. And I believe this is a city hall, what looks like beautiful shots of City Hall, which is the famous, gorgeous, columned building in San Francisco. So we're going to hear now from the now acting mayor, London Breed. You can see, I believe Edwin Lee's family is all there. It's a pretty somber event. So that's what you're watching, guys. If you are on the West Coast, you're in this particular time. This is Pacific Coast time, of course, in San Francisco, live from there. So we'll listen into what they have to say.
Good morning, everybody. Thank you all for being here on this mournful day. As I'm sure you all know, our mayor, Mayor Edwin M. Lee, passed away early this morning at Zuckerberg San Francisco General. He was 65 years old. I want to thank Dr. Susan Orlick, who is here with us today, and the dedicated professionals who cared for the mayor last night. Our thoughts and prayers are with Mayor Lee's wife, Anita, and his daughters, Tanya and Brianna, at this time. When he passed, Mayor Lee was surrounded by his family, by his friends, and the colleagues who loved him. Ed Lee lived a life of service, cut short far too soon. Like me, Ed grew up in public housing. The son of working class immigrants, he developed early on a profound sense of community, a commitment to helping others. His father was a veteran and his mother a seamstress. They instilled in him a humility and selfless work ethic that he maintained throughout his entire life. The mayor's father passed while he was just a teenager, but heartbreak could not derail him. Ed earned a scholarship from Bowdoin College, a prestigious liberal arts college in Maine, and after graduating, he relocated to the Bay Area, where, like so many of us, he fell in love with the city that he would call home for the rest of his life. He attended Bolt Law School at the University of California, Berkeley, and joined the Asian Law Caucus. Ed Lee fought against discrimination, working on the front lines to keep tenants from being evicted. He was, from the dawn of his career, an advocate for the powerless, a voice for the overlooked, someone who fought for those in need before himself. That commitment to others defined the mayor's 3 decades of public service. As the director of the Human Rights Commission, as a director of the Department of Public Works, as our city administrator, and then as our mayor, we tend to forget, but when Mayor Lee was appointed in 2011, he faced tremendous challenges in this city. San Francisco was enduring the fallout of the Great Recession, rising unemployment, and growing worry. But the mayor was undeterred. He believed everyone should have the opportunity to have a good job with a good wage. And through his work, more than 140,000 jobs were created here in the city and county of San Francisco. And San Francisco passed one of the highest minimum wages in the country. He believed everyone should have a secure place to call home, which is why one of his first campaigns was for the Housing Trust Fund that has invested millions of dollars in rehabilitating affordable housing and building new affordable housing here in our city. Ed Lee led efforts to rehabilitate and rebuild over 7,000 units of public housing. He always said he didn't want folks like him and me to be known as public housing residents. He wanted them to be known as San Franciscans. Mayor Lee was committed to helping those who were experiencing homelessness and those suffering from mental health and substance abuse. He explored every option and embraced any idea that could help move people off the streets into safe, stable situations, where they could be on the right path to health and recovery. Mayor Lee believed in the power of opportunity. A rebuilt home, a reborn community could inspire individuals to reach for their dreams just like he had. He believed in a city where a poor kid from public housing could become mayor. Ed was not a politician. He did not always deliver the best soundbite or carry the room with unspoken charisma. Flash never mattered to him. Disagreements never deterred him. He was humble and determined no matter the job he held. He was fair and collaborative no matter the heat of the moment. What mattered most to him always was helping his fellow San Franciscans and occasionally delivering the almost perfectly timed corny joke. Mayor Lee endured many tough political battles, but they never dimmed his spirit. Opponents may have disagreed with him on policy, but everyone agrees that our mayor was a good man with a good heart. He believed above all else in building bridges and solving problems. Everyone who had the pleasure of working with Mayor Lee will miss him tremendously. From the members of the Board of Supervisors who are here with me today, to the community advocates who worked alongside him, and the San Franciscans for whom he served with all his might. The flags in our city will fly half-mast for the next 30 days. Our first Chinese American mayor, a man who has left an immeasurable legacy for the city and county of San Francisco. And I now must assume the responsibility, and I ask for your patience, and I ask for your support, and I ask for your prayers. Our city's values have never been more important, and in the months ahead, let's carry on in Mayor Lee's honor. He has earned our affection because he was one of the sweetest men any of us have ever known, and he will be truly missed. Thank you all for being here, and we will have Dr. Ehrlich talk about what happened at the hospital specifically.
Good morning. First, I would like to, on behalf of the team at ZSFG, Zuckerberg San Francisco General Hospital, to express my deepest condolences for Mrs. Lee, his family and loved ones. This is indeed a sad day and a great loss for our city. Mayor Lee arrived at Zuckerberg San Francisco General Hospital by ambulance shortly after 10 o'clock last night, Monday, December 11th. He was in critical condition, and we attempted life-saving measures for several hours. He died at 1:11 a.m. on the morning of Tuesday, December 12th, this morning. We expect the medical examiner to determine the cause of death, and his family has asked that we share no further medical information at this time, and because of state and federal privacy laws, we need to respect their wishes. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Doctor. And I want to thank all of the department heads, all the city staff, all the commissioners and elected officials. Our Lieutenant Governor and former Mayor Gavin Newsom is here. Thank you all for coming and being here to bring the city together at this trying time. And now I'd like to ask our city attorney to talk specifically about what comes next. As you all know, I am currently the acting mayor and will assume that responsibility, and our city attorney can provide further details as to what will happen in the months to come.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I would just first like to echo the sentiments and the condolences of Mayor Breed and Dr. Ehrlich, and I know for the entire community, about the profound sense of loss that all of us feel on the passing of Mayor Lee, and I'd like to offer my condolences specifically to his wife and family, and just to let them all know that I know that the entire city family will be there for them as they go through this difficult time. You heard Dr. Ehrlich talk about Mayor Lee passing at 1:11 this morning. Under Charter Section 13.101.5b, at that time, Board President London Breed assumed the duties of acting mayor. She has all the powers and responsibilities that come with the office, and she will have all of those duties until such time as the Board of Supervisors votes on a successor, should they choose to do so, although they are not required to do so. In any event, there will be an election June 5th, 2018, where the next mayor will be chosen to fulfill the unexpired term of Mayor Lee, and that term will end on January the 8th, 2020. That's a very broad overview of where we are now. Mayor Breed has all the powers and responsibilities and duties of acting mayor by virtue of her position as board president. And what occurs over the course of the next several months will be determined by what actions, if any, the Board of Supervisors chooses to take. And with that, I'd be happy to take any questions that anybody has about the process. Where are we? No, they will not be. Will the Board of Supervisors be voting on this matter today? And the answer is no.
Is there a time frame for the board?
The board does not have to take any action, and there is not a timeline. And for that entire period of time, should they choose not to take any action, Mayor Breed will be both the acting mayor and the president of the Board of Supervisors. So she has her position as acting mayor by virtue of her position as president of the board. There will not be. Mayor Breed has both positions. She still continues to have her Board of Supervisors position and president of the board, and she is the acting mayor. Yes.
In June of 2018, when do the new candidates have to have their filing for the election?
Yeah, that's something that obviously has not been top on our list, but that's something that we're examining, filing deadlines. We've really been focusing on making sure that we had a smooth transition to ensure that there was a continuity in city government, and that's what we've been focused on. No, I've given my answer. We're still examining that.
We'll come back to you on that. Does anybody have any other questions for Mayor Breed or Dr. Elric at this time?
I'm sorry.
We will not, we're not answering that question.
Okay. So our city attorney, Dennis Herrera, has already made that clear for now. I am currently still the supervisor of District 5 as well as the acting mayor until at such time the board decides if they would like to make a decision to select someone to fill the term until the next election.
We're going to take one more question. Tosh?
So I've worked with and have known Mayor Ed Lee for over 20 years. And what I appreciate about the mayor is his commitment to public housing, mostly because when I first became a member of the Board of Supervisors, I made it clear that he asked my top 3 priorities. And I said public housing, public housing, public housing. And as someone who grew up there and spent most of my life there, Mayor Lee, very similar situation, we bonded over that. And looking at Robert Pitts and looking at it going from this place that was completely falling apart to just painted walls and new fixtures and how beautiful it looks, and the fact that he really was steady on helping to make this happen is really what I will always remember about him. His commitment to tune out the noise and focus on trying to get the job done. And I really will always appreciate him for taking my priority seriously and helping to get that work done. He was a dedicated and committed public servant, and I will never forget him for that. Thank you, Tara.
Thank you, everybody. That concludes the press conference this time.
All right, guys, so kind of a somber way to kind of close down our digital stream today. You saw, I just brought you sort of that picture. Let me double box that for you of the mayor. This was pretty sudden news. He died of an apparent heart attack at age 65, known for being a philanthropist and, of course, caring for the city for so many years. So wanted to bring you that press conference live to show you what they're going through there and what they're going to do next in San Francisco. I know a couple of you are on the West Coast, so this is somewhat closer by and a little bit relevant to you as well. But again, some somber news to kind of close down the stream today. But I want to also welcome you to the stream if you are new. Please do hang out with us and subscribe to our channel if you're interested, and you can catch our stream during the weekdays, streaming live and breaking news throughout the weekdays. So come on with us and press the red button if you're interested in it, and be part of our community here. And you can also use that live chat as always to keep the chat flowing and going throughout. So thank you guys so much for being on with us. So that is what we got today, guys. It is election day in Alabama. We'll have more on that story and more follow from what happens. It is left to the people of Alabama. We'll see what happens today. Roy Moore and Doug Jones both cast their vote today. We had it on video for you, and then the rest is in the people's hands. So we'll see what happens. We'll have more on that story and more follow in the morning tomorrow as we continue with our stream then. So take a look now at our Capitol Dome. Guys, we're going to leave you with a little Christmas music to close it out, and we'll catch you tomorrow on Wednesday. All right, see ya.